And welcome to Truth Watch UK. In our previous episode we examined lawfare and information warfare. Today we turn to the centerpiece of the Chinese Communist Party's unrestricted warfare, psychological warfare. What exactly is it? How is it used? And what impact has it had here in the UK and across free societies? To understand the cruelty of psychological warfare, let's begin with a real scene.
Psychological warfare doesn't need cannons, it reshapes the human mind. One of the CCP's so-called three warfares is to influence societies abroad through fear, manipulation and narrative. This report examines 6 cases showing how psychological warfare is unfolding in the UK and beyond. Case 1. Overseas repression at the British Museum. Outside the British Museum in London, Falun Gong practitioners were violently assaulted while peacefully raising awareness. This was not a random scuffle, but the extension of repression overseas. Beijing seeks to export fear so that even in free societies, practitioners live under intimidation.
你们这法轮功在这干这种屌事啊，还没给我搞。法轮功，把人叫过来。被钱只是那什么？你就拿什么的？只能攻灭中国这非宇宙。 法轮功在中国是禁止的，你不知道吗？我不想把那个扩大，过去。就在国外就合法的，千万别在中国上。你敢拍？拍！
So on August the 20th, 2018, here in this exact location, Mrs. Fu was practicing the Falun Gong exercises alone at the back entrance of the British Museum. She was attacked by a Chinese man. She fell unconscious on the spot, suffering lumbar and cervical fractures and spinal nerve damage. Police quickly arrested the attacker. However, Mrs. Fu, adhering to the principles of truthfulness, compassion and forbearance, chose to forgive the attacker and did not file a lawsuit. In a forum in the Houses of Parliament, this was discussed on July the 15th, 2025, to highlight religious freedom in China and the increased transnational repression by the Chinese Communist Party. Mrs. Fu said within this forum, 7 years have passed and I'm sharing this story again. The attacker was a complete stranger to me, yet his motive was clearly connected to my practice of Falun Gong. This is the result of the CCP's long-term smear campaign and incitement of hatred, and it is the continuation of its cross-border persecution. Mrs. Fu continued to say, "My experience is just the tip of the iceberg. Thousands of Falun Gong practitioners, especially in mainland China, continue to suffer brutal persecution. I urge the British government and kind-hearted citizens to work together to end this persecution of their faith."
Case 2. The CCP's policy of fear. Since seizing power, the CCP has ruled through campaigns of fear. The anti-campaigns, the Cultural Revolution, the Tiananmen massacre. The aim was not problem-solving, but to silence and weaken society. In 1999, it turned its repression against Falun Gong. Millions practiced within just 7 years, gaining health and moral strength. Had there been no crackdown, China might today be a nation of spiritual renewal, but the CCP feared losing control. Case 3. Bounties on 19 Hong Kongers. In 2025, Hong Kong police issued arrest warrants for 19 overseas democracy activists with bounties up to Hong Kong's 100 million. Passports were revoked, assets frozen, families punished. Anna Kwok's father was even arrested. This is not law enforcement but psychological warfare, to make anyone who speaks out feel unsafe and to silence through fear. Case 4. Self-censorship on UK campuses. On UK campuses, many students and scholars fall silent. Some fear class discussions being screenshotted and sent back home, endangering family. Others avoid China human rights research, fearing lost opportunities. The result, self-censorship becomes the norm. Classrooms and libraries are quietly infiltrated by psychological warfare. Case 5. Platforms and cyber narratives. On social media, algorithms prioritize anger and fear, trapping people in suspicion. At the same time, hackers like APT31 breach MPs' emails, and fake accounts spread scandals to erode trust. This is the 1-2 punch of psychological warfare. Algorithms, hackers and narratives working together to dismantle confidence in society. Case 6. Wolf Warrior Diplomacy and Little Pinks. Wolf Warrior diplomacy is not just about shouting in press rooms, it energises little pinks abroad. They attack dissidents in Western society, targeting Falun Gong, Hong Kongers and Uyghurs with hostility. They reject equality, compassion and fairness, importing hatred into free societies. The aim of this psychological warfare is to bury truth and suppress conscience. From violence on museum streets to silence in classrooms, from disinformation campaigns to overseas bounties, we see fear is central to the CCP's rule. But here, on free soil, we can choose not to be silenced. Speaking up for the vulnerable is a choice of immeasurable merit, an act of moral greatness. True strength lies not in fists, but in the courage to tell the truth.
The goal of psychological warfare is not to make you believe a lie, but to make you doubt everything until silence feels safer. But once we recognise the manipulation, fear no longer controls us. Yet fear is only the first step. Beijing's deeper strategy is to control how you speak and how you think. This is discourse warfare. When it seizes the power of narrative, truth can be renamed and justice turned upside down. In our next episode, we'll expose the reality of discourse warfare.